During the 60s, there were turbulent times, beginning with the civil rights movement, the war in Vietnam, the protest among college campuses against the military, against ROTC, of which I was a member here at the University of Houston Advanced ROTC class. And coincidentally, I was the first African American to receive a commission in the U.S. military from the University of Houston's ROTC times. So when taken in that context, it was difficult because twice a week I had to wear a full military uniform and traverse the campus in an environment that did not accept the military. So there were lots of things going on at that time. That Martin Luther King emerged as a world leader in the protest against Vietnam, and the world came to support that, and ultimately we were out of Vietnam. But during the 60s, it was extremely difficult. After college, I went to the East Coast and began working in electrical engineering, and did that for a couple of years, and was not thrilled with that. I had developed an interest in journalistic writing. In fact, I read a lot. My family delivered the Houston Post newspapers for 17 years, and that meant we got up at 4:30 every morning, delivered the newspapers, and then we served Mass in church, and then we went to school. So by the time I went to school, we had already put in half day. But I loved reading and I loved writing, and I decided that I would do a career change from engineering to law, was accepted into the law school, and managed to graduate, thank God. My experience here at the Law Center was absolutely exhilarating because it presented challenges that I had never anticipated. And again, I mentioned it was somewhat on the order of the book and the movie, The Paper Chase, which actually came out after I graduated from law school, but it was a similar experience with John Houseman, who starred in that movie, was sort of a person that's a combination of Dean Newell Blakely here at the Law Center and Dwight Olds, a professor. Dean Blakely taught criminal law, criminal procedure, and evidence, and was absolutely an outstanding person. Professor Olds taught property and trust and wills, and they were both fabulous, highly intelligent professors, but they were also very intimidating. But I chose them because I wanted to be exposed to the best, and they helped me along. They were my favorite professors in law school. I'd say my favorite classes were criminal law, evidence, and criminal procedure, although I had no interest in a career in criminal law. It was just that those were the most exciting cases that we had to study and read. Also enjoyed property law, and ended up having a fairly significant property law practice after I graduated from law school. For me personally, I never viewed it as being a trailblazer or anything. It was just a matter of circumstance. I happened to be a person who applied for admission to the law school. I had scored well on the LSAT. I had a high GPA from my engineering days, so I got admitted. And I just knew that I wanted to complete law school, so I was highly motivated. My wife was a huge support during all my days. She's really my rock solid support for my time here in law school. From that perspective, it was never anything that was prominent in my mind. I merely wanted to achieve my objective, which was to graduate and pass the bar. I felt that I had a duty. Someone had to be first. I just happened to be the one who was selected. But I believe the person who was first had the obligation to try to inspire others, particularly African American law students, of which I was the only one during my time at the Law Center in the full-time day law school. I was the only African American student. And having graduated, I would have hoped that it would inspire others to follow that path, and I'm thrilled to do so. For instance, my son followed me here at the Law Center. Actually, my brother, my older brother, waited until I graduated, and then he decided he could go to law school too. He became an extremely prominent oil and gas lawyer here in Houston, served 8 years on the Board of Regents for the University of Houston, the first Black University of Houston graduate to serve on the Board of Regents. My daughter-in-law graduated from the Law Center. My sister became a lawyer. She just retired as Dean of Students at Thurgood Marshall Law School. I have a son-in-law who's a lawyer who switched engineering careers as I did to become a lawyer. I have a niece who's a lawyer. So in that sense, I think that if I were to speak to, quote, a legacy, I would hope that people would see that I sort of created a path that others in my family in particular followed and all became lawyers. And I'm hopeful that that's the effect I have on other African American law students. I knew that it could happen. I knew that we had the ability to do it. What we needed first was the opportunity, and I was given that opportunity. So I'm grateful to have had that opportunity, and to then see my wife being so supportive of this the whole time I was in law school. And then to see my family follow is just something special to me, and always has been. I stayed extremely busy over the 51 plus years that I've been licensed as a lawyer, but right out of law school, I had a military obligation, as I mentioned earlier. And so I turned down an opportunity, an invitation to join the Judge Advocate General's Corps in the Army, since I had the military obligation. But I chose to accept the commission into the Signal Corps, but I was a licensed Texas lawyer, so I was fortunate enough to secure an assignment to the Army post located in San Antonio, Fort Sam Houston, Texas. But I got myself assigned to the JAG office there, and so I tried cases and I rendered legal assistance to members of the military, many of whom were coming back from Vietnam in some very difficult circumstances. We didn't even know about the effects of war on individuals coming back into a free society. It was very, very difficult. But I enjoyed those 2 years. Following that, I joined the trial department of Exxon USA. But interestingly, I found that I really didn't care for the Exxon environment. It was very materialistic. It was very highly disciplined, more challenging than the military. For me, I'm more of a free spirit than I am one to conform to the mores of society in that sense. Left there, formed a law firm with some friends, practiced law for a number of years, ultimately formed my own law firm with two University of Houston Law Center graduates, younger Black lawyers, and we built our firm in centering around government services and public service, and that began for me under an appointment I received from the City of Houston's mayor, where I served as one of his top advisors during his tenure as mayor of the city. And I began to love government and government service. I just believe my whole life has been built around the premise that government is here to serve the people, which I wanted to do, which meant that Exxon did not fit my characterization of what I wanted to do in my career. So ultimately, my law firm was acquired and merged with Winstead, Sechrist & Minnick, a Dallas-based law firm. I became a senior equity shareholder in that firm, and I retired from that firm in 2009. Over the time I had my own law firm, we centered our activities on government and government-associated matters. We represented, for instance, as co-general counsel, we were co-general counsel to the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, which built all three of the major sporting venues here in Houston. I represented the City of Houston, Harris County Health Facilities Development Corporation, the City of Houston's Land Assemblage Redevelopment Authority, the Harris County Hospital District, other such representation, government entities. But I also served clients who did business with government. So my whole career has been based on governmental services. It set me on a path to do all of these quirky things that I did throughout my career. I wasn't pigeonholed, as I found myself being in the engineering community, and I was able to do many different things. I say to myself, I retired from a number of different careers over my tenure as a lawyer, but it just went from one group of interest to another group of interest, grounded primarily in serving the people, government and its service. And I served in a lot of public service situations. I served on the boards or commissions or memberships of 40 to 50 community-based organizations designed to help people of lesser means, and I'm proud of that fact. And that's how that legal education, while it could have resulted in my taking the path and going to the big law firms and enjoying all of the benefits that come from that particular environment, I did those things that I enjoyed doing, and I have no regrets about that. I did end up with a big law firm later in my life, but it was also the same kind of representation. That was what I did. I'm hopeful that there will be 75 more years and more than 75 more years in the spirit of how Dean Baines has led the law school into new arenas, into not only academics, higher standings within the national legal communities, but in those things that focus on serving people. For instance, the pipeline program here at the university starts early in life in middle school to expose at-risk young people to the potential of becoming lawyers. And that's a tremendous program. And I think that's great. But also, I would hope that for all the years to follow, the school would continue serving the interests of diversity, equity, and inclusion that Dean Baines has forged as we go forward. Please continue on the path that has been set by our outstanding dean. Continue to develop exceptional lawyers who become exceptional judges and politicians and heads of corporations and public servants in particular, because that is my particular interest. And I just wish the Law Center so much success in the future.